Well, in the beginning of the new year, many people reassess their finances, their jobs, and their health. But how about your aging mother and father's health? Our next guest says you should get involved in your parents' health now before something goes south later. He is Dr. Christopher Choi with Concierge Wellness Center in Las Vegas. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Choi.
Thank you for having me, and Happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year to you too. This is a perfect time to think not only of ourselves and our resolutions, but taking care of our aging parents. You have some tips for us. Your first one being to have that first conversation with your parents while they're still healthy. Tell us why that is so important.
That is very important because having that early initial conversation will set the tone for further conversations. And frankly, there are a lot of things that need to be done in order to take care of your parents. And if you don't have the conversation early on, you're going to run out of time to get things ready in place to take care of your parents. So you need to get that conversation in early on.
And I think a lot of people's parents, you know, their children have grown up, but they maybe wanted to shield their child from health problems while they were younger, but now they're at an age where they can understand, you can understand that your parents, of course, they have a health history. So is it super important not only for them, but for your own family history knowledge as well, to find out everything going on with them health-wise?
Oh, that's a very good point, because your family history dictates what your risks are down the road for yourself. So knowing your parents' health history is very important for yourself too. So you're actually helping your parents, but also helping yourself.
Okay. And for people who live in a different state as their parents, what would you recommend for people whose parents are far away, or maybe even if their parents live alone?
You know, I'm a son with an elderly mother who's aging, but luckily she lives about 2 miles away from me.
That's great.
It does make it a little easier. However, it still takes a lot of my time to take care of her. So if you're 2,000 miles away, I can only imagine how much involvement you have, how much time it will take.
Yeah.
And if you're 2,000 miles away, you cannot see your parents often. So if you're not involved frequently, you know, talk to them frequently and actually attend the doctor's appointments via phone, then you can actually miss things until it's too late, and it can actually cause avoidable disasters.
Wow.
So you do want to get involved frequently and early on, especially if you're 2,000 miles away, in order to avert that disaster.
Yeah, and speaking of averting disasters, you also mentioned it's really important to advocate for your parents, especially if there's a language barrier or an accent. Why is that?
First of all, you do need to be an advocate for your parents, regardless of whether there's a language barrier or not.
For sure.
But if there is a language barrier, then it's not just a language, it is also a cultural barrier. That's a triple whammy. So if you have all of those, then it's going to be very difficult for you to understand what your physician's recommendations are, even your financial institutions. So as the kids who understand the American culture, you need to be involved so that your parents' needs are met. It is very, very important. And I have an elderly mother, again, who doesn't speak English. So, you know, she can be taken advantage of and so on, and I have to be there for her.
Okay, we're almost out of time, Dr. Choi, but how often should we be getting our parents to the doctor as they age?
As a doctor, I see my elderly patients every 3 months, even if they're healthy, because in the 3 months, a lot can happen. So as children, you must actually keep in touch with your parents at least every 3 months, and maybe even more frequently, because you might be able to see the subtle change that can actually avert the disasters.
Okay, great tips. Thank you so much, Dr. Choi. We really appreciate it. And Happy New Year.
Thank you.
All right, and more will be right back.